Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I wish that my first time speaking to you was on happier terms, yet the tide of terror washing my country has compelled me to speak to you today, this morning. Today, the Security Council convened another meeting to discuss the growing tensions in my country, titled as the situation in the Middle East. However, this is not what we need. What we do need is this council to convene a meeting on the dangerous incitement led by President Abbas. Only yesterday, my Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu expressed his willingness to meet with the Palestinian leadership and resume peace talks immediately, without preconditions, in order to bring calm to the region. How do you think the Palestinians respond? Did they grab the opportunity to engage in direct talks with Israel? No. Did they offer to drive only 20 minutes between Ramallah and Jerusalem to meet? No. Instead, they called on the Security Council to hold this emergency meeting. Ever since President Abbas made his hate-filled speech and outrageously claimed, and I quote, "The Jews desecrate the Temple Mount with their dirty feet." Dirty feet. We have seen a sharp increase from the quote until today in violence against Israeli civilians. The tide of terror that washed over the entire nation spares no one. Babies, children, men and women are being targeted every day. Israelis are being stabbed, bombed, run over and stoned. Yet, this council remains silent. Just last night, the holy site, the tomb of Joseph, was set on fire by a mob of Palestinians. On Monday, a Palestinian boy attacked an Israeli boy who was riding his bike, stabbing him no less than 15 times. I repeat, 15 times. The victim is still hospitalized in critical condition. Ask yourselves, why would a 13-year-old boy decide to go on a stabbing spree and try to take another boy's life? How come? We all have children. The answer is that such acts of terror do not happen in vacuum. When a Palestinian child returns from school and opens the television, he doesn't see Barney or Donald Duck. He sees murderers portrayed as heroes. When he opens a textbook to do his homework, he doesn't learn about math and science. He is being taught to hate. This picture you see here is an example of the kind of text that Palestinian children are being exposed to day in and day out, in school, after school. The picture gives children elaborate instructions on how to stab a Jew. We talk a lot about incitement here in the UN. You can see with this picture what incitement looks like. The picture is being taught in middle schools, in high schools, in elementary schools. Instead of educating about peace and tolerance, the Palestinian leadership is brainwashing children with incitement and hate. Palestinian leaders have established an incubator to raise children as terrorists. Whoever avoids direct negotiations is looking for an escape hatch. And Abbas's favorite kind of escape is to spread slanderous lies about the situation in the Temple Mount, especially about the status quo. However, only 2 weeks ago, we were all here. Prime Minister Netanyahu stood here in the General Assembly of the UN, and he repeated his commitment once again to maintaining the status quo. Let me make it clear. Israel will not agree to any international presence on the Temple Mount. Any such intervention would violate the decades-long status quo. What Abbas is trying to do comes as no surprise. History has shown us that every time a Palestinian leader wanted to avoid taking a difficult decision, he filled the void with incitement and false accusations and lies regarding the Temple Mount. To sum up, I want to say to the international community and to the Security Council, if you are serious about promoting peace, if you are truly committed to advancing coexistence in our region, make a clear statement against the incitement that fuels terror, support direct negotiations, just as we did with Egypt, just as we did with Jordan. This is the only way to bring calm to the region. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. So 48 years of occupation, you think is not enough for the Palestinians to shout out, and if they do, they are considered terrorists. 3 days before the election, Netanyahu himself, he said, quote unquote, I am not committed to this two-state solution. What do you say to that? And is this a kind of the terrorist that you are fighting for?
There is no justification for terror. There is no justification for a terrorist to take a knife and to stab somebody who is standing in a bus station, somebody who is walking in the street. We had disputes in the past. We had stabbing before 1967, brutal ones, in 1936, 1948. And when you see radical forces full of hatred, don't ask for a reason or justifications. And the only way to avoid such movies that you have is direct negotiations, not bashing Israel and inciting the youngsters who live in Judea and Samaria.
Just a technical question. I understand that you are not going to address the Security Council today. Your deputy is. Why is that?
The main message was delivered directly to you today. I will deliver my credentials to the Secretary General on Wednesday, and the same words you heard now, the Security Council member will hear in few minutes. And I think it's very important that the people in Israel and the people in the region will hear the voices that we're calling for direct negotiations and we're calling to stop the incitement.
Sure, thanks a lot. Some on the Council are putting some faith in an expanded quartet, the idea of getting more regional countries involved in this quartet process. What do you, as you come here, what do you think is the possibility of the quartet as expanded in trying to get to the root problems of today's conflict?
We appreciate the goodwill of our allies and other countries to promote peace in the region. But if they really want to promote peace, they should call for direct negotiations. There is no shortcuts. In order to promote peace, you need to have both sides sitting on the table without preconditions and negotiating. And we have proven we had many difficulties with Egypt and Jordan. It is not the case today. I think if you want to promote the process in the region, you should support direct negotiations.
Ladies and gentlemen, this will be the last question. This will be the last question from voters.
Mr. Ambassador, you say that you won't accept, or Israel won't accept an international presence on Temple Mount, but there is already a kind of quasi-international presence. Why not expand that or come up with some sort of agreement that, you know, would sort of build on what's already there? Thanks.
For many decades, we keep the status quo, a very delicate one, a status quo that allows Muslims to pray freely on the Temple Mount, a status quo that allows visitors, not prayers, Christians and Jews. We don't think that any intervention will help. I think keeping the status quo is the right thing to bring stability and to keep stability in the region. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.